We're back with more NBA coverage, and to get straight into it, we have some very major news and really great news in the case of Malik Beasley. Now, as y'all know, he's been involved in this gambling investigation, and it's been cited in the past as a key player in the entire scheme that they're looking into. Of course, a lot of different information surrounding that and also Malik Beasley's personal expenses has been released over the course of this time. However, I suppose as they've dug deeper and deeper into this, they eventually found that Malik Beasley didn't really have the involvement in this that they were previously expecting. And it would eventually get to a point where they cited that he was no longer a target in their investigation, as the official report stated. Now, with that, it potentially clears him of all that he was being accused of, and according to Shawn when the report came out, it does give him a chance to enter back into contract negotiations with the Pistons and maybe other teams that might be pursuing him in free agency at this point. Again, if he were to have been found guilty of anything, any aspect of this, his basketball career would have been completely over. But instead, they let him off free. They don't find anything on him. And he's able to go right back out and play basketball in no time. He has a strong chance of returning to the Pistons, even with them picking up the players they have over the course of this offseason. Because honestly, you can never have too much shooting on your basketball team. Like, the game has changed completely. So if you can just load up on those kinds of players, off the bench especially, you're certainly going to take a stab at it. Besides, I'm sure the deal would still be 3 years, $42 million for him. So he'd certainly be able to take that. It's definitely a win and a step in the right direction for Malik Beasley. But from my perspective, he still doesn't come out of this unscathed. I mean, like I mentioned, you have all these different reports revealing that you owe all of these different people a shit ton of money. And the notion of you mismanaging your money in some of the worst ways imaginable, not just with those costs right there, but also with the rent, the facing of eviction and stuff like that. Those things just cannot be a good look for him in the future. And to just have that information out and about, along with you having a name that isn't necessarily a household one, but obviously most people would know that you were a basketball player dealing with those issues. And it's like, doesn't really paint you in the best light that way. Hopefully he can improve that situation, that aspect of things in the long run. And to have that just be revealed out in the open like that, even if he was able to avoid charges, that is always going to be associated with him until he turns it around. Like, the public, or at least the people who have consumed those specific media, talking about his struggles with financing and managing his money off the court and in other ventures, they're not just going to up and forget about it when you start playing basketball again, no matter how good he ends up performing. He's not going to be able to shake that label. So, if there's any negative about this entire thing, it was certainly that. By a country mile. There would be a report later as well from Shams that the Bulls are set to retire Derrick Rose's jersey on January 24th of next year. I believe there was a report a few months back stating that they would, in fact, retire his jersey. But I think at that point in time, they hadn't released a specific date for it. So at least we have an answer on when that's going to happen. And, you know, I've not really had a problem with this at all. Like, I think Derrick Rose is a player that truly deserves the recognition in that franchise. Because it wasn't just about what he was doing on the basketball court. Yes, he is going to go down as pretty much one of the top, if not the what-if story of the 2010s. The fact that he was the youngest ever player to win an MVP and have that blitz of a start to his career before having it constantly be derailed and rewritten by injury after injury. Certainly unfortunate. But at least, with that franchise, he is one of the better players that they've had in quite some time. And even further than that, what he means to the city, what he's been doing through his own initiatives and foundations to uplift other young people just like him in a community that is known for just being absolutely tough on young children, and especially people of that background, because it's literally in that situation. You come from that neighborhood either playing basketball in Chicago. You're either playing basketball or you're in the streets up to no good. Luckily for Rose and so many other people, he chose the alternative route, and he used that platform to bring other people along with him, allow them to take advice from him and learn from what he was doing, even if he was no longer at the peak of his powers. And to be able to have that kind of mentorship role to an entire generation of people is something that you can't take away from him at all. So when you combine both of those things, yes, his jersey belongs in the rafters of United Center. No question about it. I was reading something pretty interesting, though. I probably should have kept the tab up on it, but it was interesting. Because essentially this article that I was reading was stating that, to have Derrick Rose's jersey up in the rafters is fine, but it is going to be a reminder of just how mediocre the Bulls have been since Jordan's last season in Chicago. And although I don't wholeheartedly agree with that, I can see where that person was coming from. Again, Derrick Rose is obviously a standout player for them. But outside of that, they've had flashes of potential greatness with the franchise. You've had guys like Joakim Noah, for example, alongside Derrick Rose. You had a little bit of Jimmy Butler. You had Zach LaVine, but through some of the same inconsistencies and injuries, he was never able to reach his full potential with the team either and lead them far enough into playoff contention. Kirk Heinrich back in the day was a staple player for them, but he was by no means a superstar. By the time Ben Gordon got there, a lot of crazy shit was going on with him. And he was not producing at the same level that he was as a Piston. Just names like that who, at least for a few good years, gave those fans glimpses of hope, but nothing substantial enough to warrant a truly great and fruitful tenure with the team. Because honestly, every time they've had at least a little bit of something like that, whether it be the injuries, whether it be the front office making trades or other potential factors, it never lasts for long enough. And that's why they haven't been able to find anything truly great since that final season in 97-98 with Jordan at the helm. It's a fair point to bring up. But again, I just think that Derrick Rose means too much to the overall community. And again, his great years with the team, even if they were only a few years, were great. Maybe it did not represent a large portion of time for these fans, right? But it's something that they're going to remember for a long time. People still talk about some of his finest moments with the team to this day. So, even if it might not have been long term, you know, sometimes, especially in a situation like this, that may not always matter to a fan base. And, I think Derrick Rose deserves his due diligence. Because, at least to be recognized as one of the best basketball players in that franchise history, I don't see how that doesn't make any sense. You could make a great case for him having that status as a top player in Bulls franchise history. Obviously, we're not really getting into Hall of Fame talks yet. That could be a different conversation. And you know what? If we are going to have that conversation, let's wait until then to worry about that. Derrick Rose deserves to have that moment. It's been something that he's been literally working for all this time. Even if he didn't come outright and say it, because he wasn't a player that was truly that much of a talker. He just went out, got shit done on the court, handled business, and went back to work the next day. That commands respect now. You're not gonna go up to a person in Chicago and tell them that Derrick Rose didn't have an impact on that Bulls team. And that's what it's about when it comes to jersey retirements. Maybe, there are some cases where players on certain teams will get in, even if they're not considered to be the greatest players to ever play the game. It's about those moments that you can't necessarily get back. Whether it be something that happened in the short term or something that happened in more of a dynastic setting. The jersey retirement, that specific ceremony is meant to encapsulate that. Simply put, you want to do as best as you can to capture that moment in time. Yeah, I'm sure that some fans will subconsciously be thinking about the fact that Bulls basketball hasn't been up to much outside of that spurt. But again, they were all around for it. And again, it literally brought together generations of basketball fans from all different walks of life. That truly goes a long way. So, all respect to Derrick Rose for getting exactly what he deserves, I would believe. You can't just have that much hate on Derrick Rose to come up and say that shit. No, man. That's not how this works, bro. As good as those first couple things of news were, we're about to tread into some very interesting territory in these next couple. But first, for the Shawn Kemp ordeal, we have to go all the way back to 2023 because essentially there was an incident that took place where he shot a moving truck in a Tacoma mall in March of 2023. Now, this case has been going on for a while, and he has essentially been holding strong in the notion that his act was in self-defense. As this quote states right here, this is a long one. Kemp said he acted in self-defense during the 2023 shooting. The defense claimed the two men Kemp shot at provoked the incident by stealing Kemp's truck, his cell phone, and memorabilia. The judge agreed. Using a phone tracking app, Kemp located and briefly tried to talk to the driver of the 4Runner that was circling the casino parking lot, according to the trial brief. The men in the vehicle afterward dumped some of Kemp's belongings but hung on to the phone, the brief says. Kemp later saw his phone was near the Tacoma Mall. He drove there, spotted the same 4Runner, and expressed his understandable frustration with the driver, according to the brief. The man in the back seat fired off a round from a handgun at Mr. Kemp. Mr. Kemp returned fire and attempted to disable the Toyota. It did not work, the document said. End quote. And then they go on to say that, like, the car just ran away. I figure it would if you have someone just trying to literally wave their gun around and shoot you. But context and clarity is everything in this situation. You know, if you were looking at a headline like this, especially back in 2023 when this happened, and you didn't really know much about it other than the fact that Kemp just shot at a car, you'd be like, okay, what the fuck? Why is he just up and shooting a gun at a random car? There's no reason to be doing that. And they'd probably say a ton of crazy things about Shawn Kemp at that point. Oh, he's a senile old man doing some crazy shit. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. Stuff like that, right? But self-defense in this situation does make sense. I mean, how the fuck are you going to have people stealing pretty much everything you own, and then you don't have at least some kind of a confrontation with them? You're going to want your stuff back. And I mean, they say that Kemp at first, again, he wasn't even on that type of timing. He was trying to talk it out with them. He was trying to get his stuff back in a peaceful way so that these people in question could all go their own separate ways. He wasn't trying to be an instigator of potential violence. He was simply just trying to get back what he owned. And these idiots in this damn Toyota 4Runner refused, for some reason, to give him everything. Like, you're gonna try to play hardball with him and only give him back a few of his stuff and not his cell phone. What kind of dumbass shit is that? Like, I can understand why he would be frustrated afterwards. Like, he's entitled to get back everything that they stole from him because it's not their property, it's fucking his. Now, obviously, the situation would escalate quickly, but again, Kemp didn't start it. Like, why is it that you have people, again, attempting to do that to Shawn Kemp when you're in the wrong in the first place? When should it ever reach that point to begin with? Luckily, Kemp wasn't hit, and luckily, at least for those guys, they didn't end up getting hit either. But there's just no need for something like that to go down because, say, an innocent civilian was in the way of it. Say that they actually had good aim and managed to hit each other in vital parts of the body. It just would not, like, you wouldn't want that situation to come about. So I think in the closing arguments and stuff, Kemp just tried to be an advocate against gun violence, and I think he's going to spend some of his time as well having those kinds of speaking opportunities, addressing it maybe. But yeah, like, it's just a totally wild situation. You can see where Shawn Kemp is coming from here. And that's why this case took a little bit of a while to resolve. You know, they had to make sure that all the evidence lined up with exactly what he was saying. Because obviously, you'll have people just say that self-defense is a potential cop-out for them, and they could be completely lying out of their ass just to try to get a lesser charge in the first place. But no, Kemp knew everything he was talking about. He was serious. And he kind of broke it down as well. Like, he was just taken aback by the entire situation. I watched the entire body camera clip, or video, I guess. It was chopped up a little bit, but they were making the arrest or talking with him about it. He was completely caught by surprise. Like, yeah, sure, he could have just let them take everything, but again, at the same time, no. Like, if you know the story about Shawn Kemp, man, he has gone through a lot of different stuff. And I think at certain points of time in his life, he had to sell off memorabilia to keep a stable flow of income. So, knowing that that's the case with him, why then would he really allow people, random people, to steal some of the last pieces of his career? And again, obviously, the cell phone is a vital part of his active life. Now, why would he want to give that up? You know, like that's a reasonable thing to fight for. I'm not going to lie to you. And the court, over the course of time, would find that to be the case too. So I guess his sentence would just be reduced over time, and they would have a true verdict last Friday. Because according to this AP article, quote, former NBA star Shawn Kemp was sentenced Friday to 30 days of electronic home monitoring for shooting at two men inside a vehicle in a Washington State Mall parking lot. Kemp must begin home monitoring within 2 weeks, the Seattle Times reported. He must also serve 1 year of State Department of Corrections supervision and complete 240 hours of community service, end quote. Compared to potential jail time, because, prosecutors in this next quote were saying that he should have been spending 9 months in jail. To have that reduced to 30 days of just being on a home monitor and not even having to spend time in jail while doing community service, again, probably to address the incident itself and talk about ways to avoid that kind of escalation, potentially to younger people in the community. That is a respectable sentence. And, as long as he just abides by all the rules of it, this seems like something that could be knocked out pretty easily. So, at least they are granting Shawn Kemp a fair judgment. They could have gone completely overboard and given him something he absolutely didn't deserve in the first place. I wonder, too, what exactly they are doing with the people that were in the Forerunner, or if they even found the people in the Forerunner in the first place and charged them. Just think about that. I would hope that happened. I believe that would happen. Wasn't necessarily outlined in either one of these articles, but hey. Shit, man. As for the next situation involving Marcellus Brown, who was actually, according to an anonymous source that told other media, found to be the father of Jaylen Brown in the first place. This is something that might even be way worse than what Shawn Kemp was trying to do. To an extent, you can understand where he's coming from in this. He wasn't the aggressor in this situation. His stuff was stolen from him, and he was trying to get it back. They refused, and the situation escalated from there. This shit that Jaylen Brown's father did, allegedly and reportedly, this is just on a far different plane. So apparently, last Wednesday, he did acknowledge later on that he kind of started the entire thing. He was trying to park in a Las Vegas parking lot, and he actually hit another car. So I guess this person at that point in time jumps out of the car, questions what's going on, and I guess they're trying to talk to each other, hear each other out at some point. Maybe some insults were thrown out or whatever, and whatever side didn't really take that lightly at all. So I guess at some point they just snapped. They got into a little altercation with each other, as this article states. And then that's when Mr. Marcellus Brown decided to go execution style and try to completely, allegedly again, take the life of the other person. And the way in which it happened is just ridiculous to me, because as I was reading it, I'm like, damn. Like, again, altercations are gonna happen all the time. It is what it is. But I mean, damn, like, because of one incident in a parking lot, that leads to this? How? Like, as this quote says, just bear with me for a second. The victim was transported to a hospital where an attending physician said the man is in critical condition after sustaining a stab wound in the middle of his back, a stab wound in his upper right chest clavicle area, a defensive wound to his left hand that penetrated to his tendons, a slice wound that necessitated a partial gastrectomy to remove part of his digestive system, eviscerated bowels, and a broken right rib that may require surgery to repair. So you're telling me because of some form of miscommunication about parking in that particular area, you proceed to take a knife and hit this person in 6 extremely vital areas and organs of the body, leaving him in a condition where he can barely function right now, and where it's going to take a lot of work to repair these broken parts. He still won't even be 100% after this. Like, I'm like, again, if it's a self-defense thing like it was with Shawn Kemp, to an extent, like, okay, I get it, but did you have to fuck him up that badly? Did you have to? You probably didn't. Like, that is just some next level shit. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. And again, I gotta go back to this point because I said the same thing covering the Avery Johnson situation with his parent and brother in the college football recap and I've recently put out, right? Even if these situations tend to be commonplace with other people, if there is any amount of evidence linking a potential party in that situation to a famous player of a sport or a famous person in general, they're going to do whatever they can to link it and make the basketball player have to endure all of this pressure and all of these different questions about what their family or what their relatives are getting involved in. Like, we're not even there yet. We're still in the off season, but just wait until media day comes. And, obviously this situation is probably going to undergo a few more twists and turns. I don't know if it'll see court, but if it does continue to develop, Jaylen Brown's going to get asked about it by the media. Even if he denies answering those questions and just says to move on to the next one, he's still going to have to hear this until this thing gets resolved. And again, there is nothing stopping them from bringing it up at just a moment's notice. They could be asking him a random question and then someone else could just jump in and ask about what is going on with his father. Like, Jaylen Brown this season is literally trying to get prepared to take on a great leadership role, possibly the biggest one he's ever had to take on as a player in the NBA. And this is something that he now has to add to his plate when trying to get ready for the season. It's not a healthy mix. Like, you can't, especially in this situation, and in the Kemp situation as well, right? You gotta be able to control those emotions. Kemp at least composed himself for a while before things wildly escalated. For Brown to elevate the situation to that extreme, that is just way too much. It just is. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's wrong because, again, the altercation could have shifted at any moment. Honestly. Maybe something was said. Maybe this other person in question did something that Brown did not take a liking to, like I said. So any number of things could be possible in that moment. And who am I far away and far removed from the situation while being far younger than the individuals involved? I'm sure he's a very old man. Who am I to say that he's in the full wrong here? It's just not a great look on the Brown name. And again, the media will use that as ammo against Jaylen Brown, unfortunately. Even if he doesn't really deserve it. And again, doesn't need that right now, given the task he's about to take on in the regular season. But again, that's how it goes. You gotta be able to recognize that. I mean, hell, like, essentially, he prepared him for his basketball career. So how would you not anticipate potential backlash coming your son's way in the event that you did something like just lost all sense of focus in that moment? But hopefully they can collectively bounce back from it. You know, we'll see how it progresses. Again, there hasn't really been any update on it since then. Any potential resolution of the sort or, you know, anything else of that nature. But, man, yeah, wild shit going around league right now. And it gets a little wackier, you know, to tread back into lighter territory. Obviously, as a result of the wide-ranging layoffs at ESPN in 2023, longtime anchor Neil Everett lost his job. And then earlier in the year, Los Angeles studio for ESPN was shut down as well. So anchors Linda Cohn and Stan Verrett were moved from their post as well. And that just brought about a really interesting time for longtime fans of SportsCenter. You know, Verrett and Everett had been at the helm for decades up to that point, especially in that LA studio. And to have Verrett take a bow out of it represented essentially the last time they would see something of that sort with that tandem on that network. I'm sure fans were definitely heartbroken about it, but honestly, with a recent report that I just happened to come across just for the fuck of it, they don't really have to be so sorrowful about it anymore, so solemn about it, because they are gonna make a return in a pretty interesting way. You know, obviously, everybody out there wants to have a podcast, right? Any idiot can have a podcast. Everybody wants to take a route of streaming, whether it be on Twitch or Kick, I guess. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this works. But according to this report from Sports Illustrated, both Verrett and Everett are reuniting with each other to explore this medium for themselves. As this quote says right here, now they're teaming up again on a new show that will air on Twitch, according to The Athletic's Andrew Marchand. Your new show on Twitch will begin on September 9th and air on Tuesdays and Fridays. End quote. Now again, they are veterans in the game, well established. So they should be able to succeed anywhere. And again, it's really just going to be about what kind of audience they're attracting. Are all the people on Twitch really going to care about watching two old guys talk sports? Probably not. They're probably going to go and watch other younger streamers just doing random stuff, or even all of these other different types of suggestive streams, if you will. I'm not going to get that deep into it, because if you consume Twitch streams and you know, all right? I myself am not a person that really does watch a lot of Twitch streams there. However, there are a lot of different people coming to Twitch recently that, if I get a chance, I wouldn't have a problem watching. Halliburton, for example, in his time away from basketball, he said he was going to start up one. And again, I wouldn't have a problem with watching that. I'd be down. Verrett and Everett are trying to take the same route here. And, they're going to have a mix of everything. They'll obviously talk sports, and they'll have guests kind of like a SportsCenter, but as this tweet from Marchand says, a bit looser. So, hey, maybe they don't have to worry about censorship all that much either. Because obviously ESPN is very strict about that. Twitch, definitely has their own form of it, but in the realm of just talking sports, as long as they're not treading into anything that gets into violating some of their guidelines, because they have specific words and shit that are banned like that, I don't think that any of those things would come up when they're just talking sports. You never know. But I like the idea. And, hey, I'll be on it as best as I can. If I get a chance to watch it, I'll tune in and see what's up. It's always interesting to support something like that. I have no problem with getting into that whatsoever. And it's really for them, they just got to do what they've always done. Again, they are established names in this industry. So there is an audience out there for them. They just got to be able to locate them. And hey, maybe with the way that they operate over time as they continue to build up that brand, that duo speaks for itself. They're an iconic one as it is, but they could attract even more fans over the course of time. Definitely excited to see how that works out. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.